Welcome to Fans Fight Back. Myself, Martin Theobald, and Sam Heaton, a man who once punched a Russian who didn't go anywhere, which is ominous. How you doing, Sam?
Tell me about it. Not bad, mate. You?
All right. We're just discussing your boxing days and
Well,
hitting a Russian man in the head, and he didn't go anywhere.
No, he went absolutely nowhere, mate.
So yeah, that's the end of our sparring and fighting days. But yeah, mine never really happened. So
Well, same story, really.
Yeah, I did a bit, and then that was about it. But others have done far more than us, including a man I know you were a fan of at the weekend, Roman Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I've got to confess, I've still not seen this yet, but I know you have. We were talking about it yesterday. So fighting against Martinez, I found this weird. Like, if you go back to prior to the fight, like Martinez is stepping up from flyweight and manages to miss the weight.
Which says that he's struggling at flyweight, or must be struggling at flyweight. Either that or he. When was it that Estrada tested positive? Was it last week or the week before?
No, so Martinez had 5 weeks' notice for this.
Was it that far back?
Yeah, so it wasn't like he was a complete last minute.
Right.
I get it, 5 weeks is not an entire camp, but
he should still be able to make the weight.
The weight above, it's not even like flyweight.
No, exactly. I didn't realize it was that far back. Time's been a bit of a mess recently, but like to think that it's that far, I'm surprised he missed it, because he missed it by a decent amount, as I recall. So that's not great.
And I know Herning or Sonny Edwards is putting himself out there when he is. I'll fly over. I don't get this with boxers. Like, it was when it was at Eubank when his opponent pulled out recently, and Liam Williams was like, "I'll drive down from Sheffield now. I'll come and fight him." I think, no, you wouldn't. And Sonny Edwards, I'm not convinced you would fly out from Sheffield and fly out to America and fight in 24 hours time, being jet lagged with the water that you'd have taken on, because it's quite well known that you kind of retain water through flying, all these things. I say that you're training to be a pilot. You probably know more about it than I do, but
well, I think that's more the beverages on the flight than anything else.
All these things, I'm not convinced Sonny Edwards was ever genuinely going to go and jump on a plane, grab his gun shield, and fly out.
Not at that notice, no, because it's like you say, 24 hours. Have you been in the gym? Have you? I think I remember a few years ago when I know it's MMA, but there was one of the UFC fights. I think John Jones popped positive like 24 hours before a fight or something, or 2 days before a fight, and then they flew Anderson Silva in. But it's not the same thing, really, at all. And no, I don't think 24 hours. You've got to, like you say, it's. Where was the fight? It was in California, so that's a 10-hour flight at least. So you've got to get to the airport, fly there, get to the weigh-in, or do a weigh-in of some sort to see that you're still on weight.
And you're not getting a private jet, like you'd be
flying economy.
Flight, so it depends when it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's not genuine. Like, it's I don't know if it's just going for clout or just put his name out there. Maybe, like, I'm sure maybe he's just not actually thought about it. That's possible as well. He might not have actually thought of what it is that he's saying he's going to do, because it's like you say, it's an awful lot to take on in 24 hours, and it's like you're going out there to fight some scrub, is it? You're going out there to fight one of the best fighters in the world.
Yeah, I suppose if you flip it and say there was absolutely no way Gonzalez could fight Martinez, if they said, no, we can't do that fight, and they needed a last-minute replacement, maybe the money would make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on like availability of other fighters as well, because that's the thing that I think I've seen Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn both say this before. Like, when you're rearranging a fight, if somebody gets injured or pops positive or whatever it might be, it's easy to rearrange a British title fight than it is. I know this wasn't explicitly a world title fight on Saturday, but because Estrada's a champion, but to rearrange a world title fight or a high level championship fight, you can't just chuck somebody in. Like, if Floyd Mayweather loses an opponent a week before, it's not like you can just replace, like if you'd lost Pacquiao a week before because of the shoulder injury, whether you believe it or not, he can't just replace him, can he? It's not like he can just go, right, well, who's out there that could step in for Manny? There's like nobody that can do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So no,
in 24 hours, yeah, exactly.
It was an odd one, but on the other side of it, I think Sonny Edwards' video was viewed about 120,000 times. So
That's publicity, I suppose.
Who's winning out of it? Sonny Edwards, I suspect.
Well, it's easy, an easy way to get your name. I like people think that doesn't matter, but obviously it does. Like in terms of potential fights in the future,
yeah.
You know, the fact that he said he would if Gonzalez leads an opponent. I would think Estrada is next, but if he needs an opponent for whatever reason, there's a name where somebody's said, well, I said I'd fight him and I will fight him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
especially if Martinez doesn't make it back down to flyweight now, which it seems like he probably won't if he can't make super fly at 5 weeks.
Well, he's going to have to do some work to get down.
Yeah. On to the fight, though.
Yeah.
What did you make of it? Because I say you've seen it and I haven't. So I need your take on Gonzalez, because he's meant to have been on his way out of the sport for about the last 5 fights.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this fight escaped me a little bit because Estrada pulled out, and I didn't realize it was as close as it was. So in a lot of ways, I don't think I was as like hyped up to see it as maybe I would have been if it was the Estrada fight. And what I love about Gonzalez when he fights is he makes everything look simple and easy, but it's really not. And like he's doing things at like the very highest level you can think of, and it's just like so easy and it's so smooth, and he seems to be throwing punches with virtually no effort. And I thought from the very first round, Martinez looked lost. He didn't really know what to do. Look, he wasn't favourite going in because obviously he had a shortened camp and it's a weight above where he normally fights, and it's Gonzalez. But I saw a lot of people say that the power would carry up and cause Gonzalez problems, which was not an unreasonable thing to say. Martinez is a heavy puncher. For sure he is. But it was just, nothing he did seem to bother Gonzalez. He landed clean a few times and Gonzalez didn't seem to care. He just seemed to work. And he increased, as the fight went, like he started at a good level, but as the fight went on, he increased on the intensity of his work and how clean it got. Some of the Martinez is very tough. Like to say that he took some really heavy shots from Gonzalez, and you know they might well have folded him less.
The clips that I've seen, like you know, where you're on Twitter and you're flicking through, and there's like a minute's worth of clips. Like it's just constantly Martinez just getting chinned.
Yeah, it was.
Wow, fair enough. Like you've taken that from somebody weight above your standard weight. And they didn't look like light shots, and I thought
no, they weren't. And they hurt him, and he was hurt a few times, and it wouldn't have been unreasonable for the corner to pull him out in the 11th round, or even the 10th. I think there was a couple of times in the later rounds where he was getting really like tiled, basically. And to say that he took it the way he did, and I don't think it was a case of him ever being defiant. I think that's the wrong word. He had accepted his fate. You could see that more or less from about the 7th or 8th round onwards. He didn't. I think he had a good 5th round where he seemed to do a little bit better, and I thought, well, maybe he could come back into it, but obviously not. And then he was just getting battered, and it wouldn't have been unreasonable to stop it. It probably would have been better for him actually, but you know.
And Roman Gonzalez, what does he do now? Goes on to Estrada, you reckon, again?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's the obvious fight. I thought he won the second fight. It was close. Don't get me wrong. I don't like some people called it like a massive robbery. I'm not sure. It was close. It was a closer fight than before the second Estrada fight. I actually thought Estrada would beat him easily because, like you, I thought Gonzalez was finished. You know, the Calify fight notwithstanding, which. Yeah. I thought was a bit of a rolling back the years type thing. And,
yeah, I mean that almost felt to me, going back to that night of the Calify fight, that Calify had been fighting super flyweights that we weren't particularly familiar with over in the UK, and that made him like a world beater in our eyes. And actually went and mixed it with the top level,
a real world beater,
and You know, they
Yeah, he battered
exposed him a little bit for what he was, which is not that very, very top level.
No, and that's the
right.
thing about. No, you said that if that's your level, that's your level, and that's the thing about that kind of those weights that everyone around there that's at a world championship level is a good fight. Like you generally don't get bad fighters in those weight classes, and Callum Smith is a really good fighter.
Yeah.
But Gonzalez is a better fighter.
Yeah.
A much better fighter. And that's the difference. And that's probably true of Saturday night. I think that's probably what impressed me the most. Like, gun to my head, I probably would have picked Gonzalez to win it before the fight, simply on account of being bigger. But it's not that he was bigger, it's that he was just better at everything. There was nothing that Martinez could do that he could do better than Gonzalez could do it. He got outclassed in every way possible. And that's no shit. There is absolutely no shame in that at all. Like, you're talking about, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, but you're talking about one of the best fighters of the last 35 years, 40 years, whatever it is. Do you know what it reminded me of? I don't know if you've ever seen it. When Duran beat, was it David Moore? After everyone thought Duran was finished and he come back and won the light middleweight title and he absolutely battered Moore everywhere. It was a bit like that. And he fights very similar to Duran, actually. He's got a very similar style to him. And he just he absolutely tiled him everywhere. And you just think, there's nothing that Martinez could do about that. I'm not sure he's just not good enough a fighter to deal with it. There's no shame in that at all, really.
Do you think there's an issue of struggling to get the recognition because he's a small man? Like, if he put in that performance at super middle, the whole world would be talking about it. I would have watched it by now.
Well, that's always been a problem for him, really. I mean, since the first Estrada fight, what was that, like 2013 or something? Like, it was a good 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Where, you know, that win now looks incredible, all things considered. And everybody he's fought since, he's always been fighting good fighters. I mean, like, even the likes of, was it Villoria and Moises Fuentes and so on, who you would consider lesser, they're still good fighters. They're not crap. They actually are good. And he's beaten the piss out of all of them.
Yeah, like,
and he's been doing it. And he's been doing it for a decade. So what's that telling you? Like, and he's 34. He's probably been fighting since he was like 10, and I think he was under Arguello's wing when he was a youngster. And it's hard for a lighter weight fighter to get recognition because, like you say, it doesn't bring in the money that being a welterweight or a middleweight does, or a heavyweight certainly. But he's still, when you stack his achievements up in boxing, like, somebody put this on Twitter yesterday, I think it was, and they said how can it not be the case that he's outside of the top 3 of his era? He's just not. Like, there is. All right, so I was born in 1993, right? So if you ask, like, would you say since then have been the best 5 fighters to have fought? I would say Roy Jones, Floyd Mayweather.
Does James Toney fit into that time frame?
Yeah, Tony would have fought in that time frame. That's a good show. Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
And then for the last, those 3 to me are like a lock-in. They're definitely. So for the other 2, then you've got a wide choice. Some people would say Canelo. I think Julio Cesar Chavez, would he have fought in that time? I think he would have done. Maybe not to what?
The tail end.
Maybe the tail end of his career.
I'm assuming we're talking Chavez Senior, not Junior, by the way.
Sorry, Chavez Senior.
Yeah, I'm going with Junior.
Junior bit. No, so maybe Chavez Senior, if you consider the tail end. But Gonzalez has got to be up there. He's like a 4-weight world champion, and he's only lost twice. Second time was massively disputed. He didn't really lose the fight in the eyes of almost everyone watching it. And the first time he lost to Srisaket, it was a monster knockout. That that happens. And I was at the first. Third time. I was at the first Srisaket fight, and he didn't lose that one either. I honestly, I watched that fight, I was with. It didn't help. I was probably with a lot of Nicaraguans, and they were going absolutely mental all the way through the fight. Honestly, I've never heard anything so loud in my life. And then when he lost, I thought they were going to rip MSG apart. I genuinely thought they might actually kill me just for being here. They were so upset, and rightly so, because he won that fight. And so, you know, there was people, apparently, I didn't ever see these people, but it's been brought to my attention that there was like people who said he's a HBO hype job. Really? Like, honestly? Nah, you can't say that.
It's a strange one. It's a strange
That is strange, isn't it?
On the undercard, a fighter that we're familiar with over here, Mauricio Lara. Did you see his fight?
That was wild.
Yeah, wasn't it just?
That was wild. Like,
he's wild.
He's a madman, that fella.
And I love him.
Yeah, he's one of them fighters where he's got to have like a really short shelf life at a high level, because you can't take. Look, I know that fella, that Sanchez fella, he's a decent puncher, but not like massive, and Warrington's not a massive puncher either. But you cannot be taking shots like that all the time. And it seemed like he went into the fight and thought, right, I'm just going to go in there and absolutely blitz this fella, and I'm going to put everything into every punch, and one of them is going to decapitate him and smash his head through the roof. And like, that was madness. And he was taking shots, and he was thinking, oh, I wouldn't be taking these, mate, if I were you. But he could dish it out, and he hits so hard, like, it almost doesn't matter for most people. If he moves up in weight, he's a featherweight, isn't he? So if he moves up in weight, to bigger fighters, that's where he's probably going to find that style not as effective as maybe it is at the current weight. But then again, if the power goes up with him, you know, I mean, that knockout was frightening.
But do you reckon
that was scary?
I mean, Warrington's due to fight Kiko Martinez, and there's kind of alluded to the fact that he'll fight for third time.
No, he won't.
I sat thinking, you don't want to do that, surely. Like, as you say,
you have to.
I'm sure he's only got a short shelf life, because he takes one to give one, and that one that he gives is ridiculous. But you know, Warrington's kind of coming towards the end of his career now. He doesn't need a third Mauricio Lara fight. I mean,
he's getting on, Josh, isn't he? Like, what is he now? 32?
Yeah.
31, something like that. So he's been fighting a long time. He's had a lot of tough fights, and the Frampton fights were tough fights, if you remember. Selby was a tough fight for him. They obviously got battered off Lara, rather. You know,
the Frampton fight was hard.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like, you got to think, like, that's going to take its toll on Josh. And Warrington's not exactly a difficult guy to find, because his style is almost a pressure style. He doesn't really have the power, but you know, he makes it difficult for people. But with the volume that he throws at, Lara is the kind of guy where it's not really going to matter to him what Warrington does. Yeah. Like, he could lose 5 rounds to Warrington and then just ice him.
Yeah, and Lara's not volume, and he's not particularly accuracy. It's just,
no, he's not.
It's almost like a minimized numbers game. Like, I'm not going to send hundreds of shots in. I'm just going to send like a dozen absolute howitzers.
Yeah.
And he folded him. He folded him.
He did.
Like a
did he? Christ almighty, did he? Like, that was scary, that, because I think he hit him with, I think, a left hook that basically knocked him out on his feet, and then a right hand that poleaxed him, and then as he was going down, he hit him with another uppercut. And those are 3 punches that could do some real damage to somebody.
Yeah, that was proper fight night stuff. That, like,
yeah, he was iced, he was gone, and you just think, God, like, to say that. I mean, he won the first round, and was it at the end of the third round he knocked him out? The second round, I think he caught a left hook. I didn't know if it was that he just got, like, blown himself out a little bit. I don't know how hard he trained for it, because sometimes that's a thing with fighters, especially in a fight they think they're going to win easily. Like, oh yeah, I don't need to train for this. I'm going to go in there and blow my way in a round.
Yeah,
whatever. I'll just do a couple of hill sprints, and that's me done. And like,
yeah, as long as I can throw those big punches, we'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. If one of them's going to land, I mean, what is it they always say about Deontay Wilder? He only needs to be perfect for 1 second. Well, yeah, it's probably true, but you should probably still train for the fact that you're in there for 12.
And then, speaking of featherweights, we've got Wood versus Conlon this weekend for WBA regular.
So is it the regular title? I'm not sure what the state of the titles are at the moment.
One's still held. Santa Cruz has got it, and
okay.
Seems to be rumours that he's going to come back. But
this is featherweight as well, isn't it? Or it's super?
Yeah. So, what do you? I mean, it's an interesting one for me. So, Wood has kind of almost gone under the radar for years until that Kanju fight in Eddie's back garden.
It was an amazing performance from him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Wood could walk down the road of 99% of towns in England and nobody would have a clue who he is. Like, he's completely under the radar as a boxer.
Probably helps him though, actually, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because so go on.
I was going to say, well, you think about it in terms of Conlan, who, funnily enough, I was at his debut because it was the night before the Gonzalez fight, which was on the Golovkin and Danny Jacobs card at MSG. And I went to the Conlan debut, and that was wild as well. The atmosphere in there was mad, and Conor McGregor was there and whipping up the crowd. It was mental. So he's got a lot of pressure on him. Olympian, and big things expected. And I think he got courted by Mayweather and Top Rank and Matchroom and others. So there's a lot riding on this for Conlan, really.
Yeah,
to say that it's his first world title fight.
I'm with you. It kind of feels. I mean, Lee Wood is the home fighter, and it's happening in Nottingham. And fair play to Matchroom for winning the purse bids on it and getting it. I think it went to purse bids and getting it in Lee Wood's hometown. And I love that they've got it at the old in Nottingham at the arena.
Point, is it?
Yeah.
Is it the one where Frotch knocks out Buta?
That's right. Yeah. And so you kind of think back to that night and think about the atmosphere of how that looked that night. And I was at, when Frotch fought. It was a fight after that. I can't remember who it was, the American guy. Great play. So if Lee Wood can capture that same hometown, but there's going to be a lot of Irish in there, you'd suspect, because
God, yeah.
Conlan has a huge following.
Yeah, he does. And like I said, that night in the theatre at MSG was absolutely wild.
I was over for. It was when Richard Comey fought Teofimo Lopez at Madison.
Oh, yeah.
And Conlan was fighting the guy he lost to in the Olympics.
That Russian fella.
Yes, the one where Conlan gave it the middle finger to the judges. He was fighting him, but as a pro, and he had a hell of a following that night. It was
he did. Brilliant. Well, similar experience. I went to Quigframpton at the MEL, and to say that it was literally like 20 minutes from Quig's front door, it was you'd have thought it was in Belfast, and I imagine it's going to feel like this was in Dublin.
And I've got a feeling, I think they've done what they did for Quigframpton, which is they've blocked it off as like support.
Oh, right, half each.
Okay.
So
that you've assigned it. I'm not sure how they do it really for boxing. It's not like a football match where you have home.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a bit of a football thing going on there, really. Isn't it? Like that's what it was, because I had to buy tickets second hand, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and that was joke. Cost me like 400 quid, and I was with the Frampton fans because they're the only tickets I could get, and it was just insane.
Yeah,
and I imagine it's going to be the similar when Conlon and Wood fight. I don't think it'll feel like Nottingham. I think it'll feel like Dublin. Yeah,
I think it'll. But I look forward to it, actually. I think it'll be an interesting fight. I think again, Lee Wood. He's done the rounds, isn't he? You go back to the old McDonald fights and all these ones over the years. Whereas Conlan
built up slowly, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah. And Conlan's kind of had that fanfare behind him. I've got to confess, I'm not really a fan of Conlan fights.
No,
I've never watched one and been on the edge of my seat.
No, do you know it's weird? Like for so much to be expected of him, and he's a very good fighter. Like there's no question of that. But there's just something a bit lacking when Conlan fights. Like maybe it's because I don't think he's got the power, and where he clearly dominates fights, and you want him to just make that step and put the guy away and put the exclamation point on the fight. You can't put everyone away, and some people just can't do it. That's part of boxing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Floyd Mayweather was notoriously risk averse and didn't put people away generally. McGregor notwithstanding, but I don't count that anyway. So it's not a big thing if he doesn't. If he wins the fight and dominates it, the way, maybe not quite the same way, but if Chocolatito dominated the fight, he didn't put Martinez away, it doesn't matter. Dominated the fight and it was outstanding. If he could do something like that, it's a tough task. Wood's a good fighter, and I would say Wood's puncher of the two. I think for Conlan, he's got to get on top early. I don't think he can let Wood. And Conlan, I've seen him start slowly at times and then build into the fight and take over sort of midway point. I don't think he can do that in this fight. I think he's got to get ahead early and take the confidence out of Wood, because you're in the champion's back garden. You're on a matchroom card. We've seen, winning the fight isn't necessarily what you have to do these days. I'm sure, again, something else we'll probably talk about. I think he's really got to put his stamp on it. I think Conlan's got to be busy early, and I don't think he can allow Wood to get into a groove, because Wood's got a nice jab, uses it quite well. I'd like to see Wood try and establish himself. But if you're Conlan, you think you've got to make a good start, try and build a bridgehead and stop Wood establishing his style on the fight, because he'll find it very difficult. As popular as Conlan is, and he is the star, and if you put in your cynical business hat on and said, which way are the judges likely to send the rounds you would say Conlan is the star of the two, so the rounds should go to him. But he is in Wood's back garden.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb. I think Wood wins it. I think it's too big a leap for Conlan from where he's been at.
I can't name anyone he's actually, apart from that Russian fella whose name I've actually forgotten. I can't actually name anyone he's really fought. And even the guy he fought in his debut, I can't remember his name either.
No,
I was there for Conlan, not him.
That's the issue for me, is that I'm not convinced. The opponents that he's had, I've watched numerous fights of Conlan's. Similar issue that you've got. I couldn't particularly tell you who they were that he fought. And as much as he may have dominated them, and you go back to that Mayweather analogy, Mayweather through the pretty boy days was taking people out left, right, and centre. Conlan's not had that phase of a career. He's not had enough learning fights. And I think Lee Wood's going to old man him. I know it's a stereotypical term to some degree, but I just think he's going to out-experience him. Maybe even stop it. I'm going to go for stoppage.
That's a big call.
I know.
We've not seen anything that suggests Conlan's... he's not been tested, to be perfectly honest, but we've not seen anything that suggests Conlan's jaw is weak or anything like that, or that he lacks heart. Maybe this is the fight where we'll find that out. Wood can drag it out of him. Wood's not a bad puncher. So I just don't 15 knockouts.
I think Conlan will find that leap a little bit too big, and maybe that'll get to him in the fight kind of later on.
Well, we've talked about this before, haven't we? Where we've seen Eddie Hearn do this, where he brings a fighter up and he builds his star up in terms of his profile and so on, but he doesn't get him the fights that would teach him what he needs to learn for when he steps up and fights someone who is going to challenge him. Callum Smith, I know he was a world champion, but did he really have the fights that would have led him to give him a real chance of beating Canelo? No. I mean, he wouldn't have beaten him anyway. It doesn't make any difference. But the fact is, really, the George Grove fight and I would say the John Ryder fight were the only two that would be real tests for him. And all right, he beat Groves to pulp, but he struggled heavily with Ryder. Well, that should have been an indication that perhaps they'd not brought him along as well. Maybe this is going to be similar for Conlan. He's not been brought through the right way, which would be a surprise because Top Rank are normally quite good at that. Yeah,
I wonder whether they've seen something that says maybe he's not what we thought or hoped that he was, and therefore let's just go for it. It's now or never.
Cash out, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe it works, and maybe he gets a world title, but in my view, I don't think it will. And I think maybe it'll be a bit of a rebuilding job in Ireland or over in America, in New York.
Yeah, well, that's what I would think is more likely, because there's a lot of potential fights. There's a lot of fights at featherweight, obviously, but there's a lot of ways to build somebody in America. It's probably a lot easier than doing it here.
Yeah.
Because here we have a sort of very well graded system where you've got area titles, English title, British title, European title, world title, and you're supposed, not always, but you're supposed to work your way through the system, and the people that are managing your career can see, right, where are the levels where you're coping, are you not coping, do you need a bit more time at this level?
Yeah.
In America, I don't think that kind of thing, it's not like official, but I think everybody in boxing in Britain knows that that's how it works. In America, I don't think they have anything quite like that. So it's easier to rebuild your profile in America than perhaps it would be here.
Yeah, no, I agree. One man we'll see in the corner in that fight, in Lee Wood's corner, is Ben Davison.
Right.
Who's going to be on the back of the whole Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall situation. Do you think boxing has kind of moved on already from it?
Yes.
Yeah, so do I. Like,
it's we have, like, I don't know why anyone thought we wouldn't, or it doesn't. This is how boxing works. It's how it's always worked. I said it to you and the other week, if you remember, I was talking to another journalist and said, like, people who follow boxing know what this is like. We know what happens. Do you know what? People talk about corruption, and I'm sure there is corruption. Well, there will be corruption in boxing, of course there will, and drugs and everything else. But there's a thing that happens where I think, and we've seen it a million times before, and we'll see it a million times in the future, where, and I alluded to it a minute ago, when judges, right, whether they actively think like this or not, there's a sort of a subconscious part of their brain that knows who's the A side, who's the red corner in this fight. They know who it is. And close rounds, their boxing scoring is subjective anyway, and I'm sure we could do a 2-hour podcast about that, because you talk to 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers. Yeah. But I always think, like, I don't go by CompuBox because that's just some bloke tapping what punches he thinks landed. I don't particularly go by the crowd because most, particularly in a big fight, most boxing crowds don't really know what's going on. No offense to them, but I just go by what I see happen in front of me. What do you actually see happening? And it was pretty clear to almost everyone, hardened fan, casual or otherwise, who won. Jack Taylor Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall. Everyone knows who won it. Anybody expecting it to change is living in a bit of fantasy, because it's not going to happen. The judges know where the rounds are meant to go, even if they don't actively think it. It's a subconscious thing. They know they go to the red corner. They always know that. Might not have been the red corner like that, but you get the point. And, like, we've seen it a million times. We've seen, like, somebody said it's the worst decision they've ever seen. I mean, what about Ritz and Vasquez?
I know.
Which was orders of magnitude worse. Because I don't think Ritson won a round. What about, Maurice Hooker fought Dallas Perez on the undercard of Kovalev Ward, which I was also at. And I watched that fight, and I'll be honest, I wasn't really paying attention, and Perez was winning it. That was my estimation of the fight watching it. And everyone around me assumed the same. Perez was winning it. Hooker didn't do anything. I don't think he landed a solid punch in 10 rounds. And then he won a unanimous decision or a majority decision. And that was orders of magnitude worse. Nothing ever came of that. This happens in boxing, and it probably happens on white collar shows and small hall shows up and down the country. In fact, I know it does because I've seen it. So nothing will change. It's sad and it's wrong. I don't know what, Jake Paul's had some suggestions, which weren't the worst things I've ever read.
No.
And, like, I don't know what has to happen, but it's not going to change. As sad as it is, and as bad as I feel for Jack Catterall, because it's probably ruined his career in a way, because he won't, he's going to have to build back now to get to those title shots again, because Taylor is going to move up. We know that. He said it. Yeah, he's ruined his career. It's awful. It's tragic. This shouldn't be happening in this sport, but it's not going to change.
What strikes me about it, I think boxing has moved on already. And
of course it does,
it's that reactive, selective outrage about things that, as boxing fans, and Robert Smith lives off this. I swear to God, Robert Smith lives off this, right? He lives off the fact that he can run the British Boxing Board of Control by...
like a cabal.
Yeah, like, if people are outraged about it, don't worry. Just ride the storm.
No, but it's even better. It's great. It's great for him and great for them.
Yeah,
because
they'll forget about it in a fortnight.
They forgot about it now.
Yeah,
this investigation, they'll look at it and go, yeah, we agree. That's
Yeah.
it, done.
And I think you think back to, do you remember when the government handed out all the sport money after lockdown? Like rugby league got X amount, football got X amount, rugby union, cricket, badminton, tennis, all these sports, and boxing got nothing, absolutely zero.
Good.
And
frankly, good.
Yeah, and you had this outrage. You had the standard commentators, the outrage about it. You know, it gets people off the streets. It's this, it's that, it's the other. The one reason to me why boxing never got a penny is not because of the good it does for society and for the community.
It's cartoonishly corrupt.
Because it hasn't got its fucking house in order.
And yeah, exactly.
And if you don't get your house in order, you shouldn't get a penny anyway. And like when you look at it as an amateur sport, you've got Boxing England, you've got the Alliance. They're two separate organisations. As professionals, you've got the British Boxing Board of Control, you've got BIBA, you've got the Luxembourg board that put on Chisora Hale those years back. They can sanction fights over here. If I were the government, who would I even give a penny to?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so
there is no centralised governance of the sport. And I think people are outraged for a week about the fact that boxing never got any money, and then everyone forgot about it. People are outraged about Taylor Vasquez. People forgot about it. People are outraged about Ritson Vasquez. People forget about it. People are outraged about Taylor Catterall. People will forget about it, and that's how the board get by. It's like,
what was it? What was that one? Hartland's fighter. He fought Ricky Burns in Scotland.
Ray Beltran.
Well, there was Beltran, but it was one of Hartland's fighters, and I can't think of his name now. It's going to do me head in all day. But it was like shocking decision. It was honestly, it was an awful decision, and everybody kicked up a fuss for a week, and then
and then you go to the next calamity.
Burns Beltran, exactly,
and worry about it then. So
it'll never change. So that's the thing. Like, how do we change it? So what do we do? The only thing we can do, like I said the other day to you, is like, right, Eddie Hearn is the most powerful man in British boxing. I know people don't like that, but he is. So, all right, don't box your fighters in Britain or under the BBOC. Don't give them money. Government don't give them money until they promise to change it.
Yeah.
Until they do something to change it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's like the same with the drug testing thing. I'm sure you've had this conversation a million times. I know I have. People go, well, how do we get drugs out of boxing? Well, if you get drugs out of boxing, you won't have any fighters. So what do we do? Like,
there needs to be an appetite to do it, and I'm not convinced.
Yeah, and there isn't in the sport, because I know he's not a popular guy among certain boxing journalists, but there's a book called Low Life by a guy called Charles Farrell. I don't know if you've ever come across Charles. Fabulous writer, one of the best boxing writers there is. It's a brilliant book, and this has been going on for God knows how long. It'll go on forever. That's just how it is. Like, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah,
boxing is that it's always been like that, right back to the days of Sonny Liston and the Mafia, and even before that.
Yeah, the Frankie Carbo days and stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and Don King and Arum. And
I work on the basis that I can't remember what it was I watched this week, but Robert Smith. Somebody was saying they sympathise with Robert Smith. You know, the government. The British Boxing Board have kind of asked for government assistance in the past, and they've never given it. I genuinely work on the basis they don't want government assistance. They don't want government.
No, they don't.
Because the moment the government get involved in it and start asking questions, and if they send auditors in to start, looking underneath some of the stuff in boxing.
Yeah, exactly.
Then there's a lot of problems that are going to get uncovered.
Listen, that's going to be the same of every, and this is not what about in anyway. That's going to be the same in every sport. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced it's the same in football and in rugby league and in darts and everywhere else. I'm sure there's all sorts of things going on. And the reason why people don't want to change is because it's not just changing one thing. Like, even if you change the judges, that's not going to fix the problem. It's a systemic problem.
Exactly. It's cultural and systemic.
Yeah, it's been this way forever. And like, fighters haven't been getting decisions they deserve for God knows how long. That's not going to change, even if they change, like they said, like, what was it Jake Paul said? You have two judges on each side of the ring and they have to agree on a score. Wonderful. But, that's not going to change the fact that they know the rounds are meant to go to the star, even if he's not winning them, which is what was happening. Like, what was just, I you know what? I've actually forgot the scores. They were that bad. I just cast them out of my head. But what didn't one judge have it like wide for Taylor?
116, 112, I think, and 115,
Yeah,
113.
with 2 points off or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just think like, so what you're effectively saying is, in a fight where he's landed 3 decent punches on maybe a bit less, he's won 6, 7, 8 rounds. Really?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Because I don't know anybody that saw that. And Taylor doesn't believe it. Like, I know he's come out and defiantly said, but no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He knows like fighters know when they've lost. Like when Canelo lost to Mayweather and got, which is still the worst card I've ever seen and always will be. I got like the 114 off CJ Ross.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't win a round. He knows he didn't win a round. He knew it. You could see it in his face. He knew it. He said it in the dressing room afterwards because there was a like Showtime all access thing that was in the dressing room after the fight, and he said, "I didn't hit him. I couldn't hit him. I couldn't touch him. I couldn't do anything." He knew he'd lost and lost every round. But you know, it's like these things. I don't know if it's corruption or if it's just the culture of the sport. I suspect it's the latter.
Yeah. And
because if there was that much corruption going on, I'm pretty sure it would be easy to figure that out. You know, I think it's just the culture of the sport that
I like it. I like seeing the people saying, "Oh, it should just get ex-fighters to be judges." Ian John Lewis is an ex-fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Ian John Lewis was a professional boxer who boxed for area titles in the South.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not necessarily the solution just to go get Tony Bellew in there, get Carl Frampton.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, there's a thing like that goes on at the moment. It's like a sort of easy answers thing. We want simple solutions. We just do this and it'll be fine. It's like, well, no, like you said, it's systemic. It's radiates from the top to the bottom. So unless you're willing to change that, all of that stuff is just tokenism. It's not going to really affect anything.
Yeah,
you have to change the sport entirely, and I don't think there's an appetite for that.
No,
because boxers are businessmen. They're small businessmen at the end of the day, and businesswomen. They make money when they fight, and anything that affects their ability to fight, anything that impedes on their ability to make money, they're not going to want to change it, even if they know they're benefiting from a broken system. They're not. They're just not. And neither would I, and neither would you, and neither would anyone else.
And let's go to one final thing in boxing from the week, which is talking about broken systems that make people money. 80,000 tickets.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Fury versus Whyte. 90,000? I don't know.
90, I don't actually know how many they've sold. Like, I considered getting in the queue, but I thought against it because
I jumped in the queue. I didn't actually want to go because I hate stadium fights. It does nothing for me.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is incredible. The view is pointless. So
I've been to 3. I've been to Joshua, Takam, Parker, and Povetkin because they're the only ones that we've had up to this recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm with you. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually the Takam fight was a bit crap. The Parker fight was decent. The atmosphere was good. The fight wasn't great. The Povetkin fight was better because it was a good fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. Like, there is an element of you get there and you think, well, I can't see anything, and I'm watching the screen anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, as a night out, it's brilliant. Like, phenomenal crack on.
Yeah.
But if you go in there to view the boxing, take it home. So the idea that, I don't know, let's call it 85, 90,000 tickets sold out in a day, and yet they end up on Stubhub.
Oh, well, it's Kelsapri.
Yes. So, I mean, I think Eddie Hearn has taken a kick-in over the years for...
Deservedly.
Yeah, for his tickets ending up on StubHub. Now, I have more sympathy for Frank Warren over this than I do with Eddie Hearn. And the reason being that Hearn actively promotes the commercial relationship between Matchroom and StubHub. So, and I've heard stories in the background, I'll message you about it privately, about how that relationship might work.
Yeah, well... It doesn't take a genius, does it?
Exactly. Whereas at least Frank doesn't have that, he sold it through Ticketmaster. Now, if those tickets end up on StubHub, at least there isn't a commercial relationship between Queensbury and StubHub. So I have
Yeah, well, you say that, but I mean, it was still clear that ticket touts or resellers or whatever you want to call them, you shared a picture on Twitter, if I recall, of like a company that had bought, what was it, like 50 tickets or something stupid like that. I mean, again,
honestly, it was mad. It was mad. Like that was why I jumped in the queue to buy tickets. I was like 13,000th in the queue still.
Yeah.
And that was like live. It was only, I jumped in there in the waiting room when it went live. And so I was in the live queue. But while I was in that live queue, yes, I could go on StubHub and buy like a block of 50 tickets or whatever at 4 times face value. That's disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, I had, like I said, when I went to Quickframpton, I had to buy them secondhand because I couldn't get them. Thinking like they'd literally sold out within about 10 seconds. And I had to pay, I think for 3 tickets, I paid 450 quid, which is a lot of money. A lot of money. I mean, it was my first really big fight I remember going to since I was working and had my own money and that, so I didn't mind it. But now I think back about it, that was insane. And I'm sure there's people who are doing that now. They're looking at they've never been to a stadium fight. They've never been to a big fight. And they've thought, right, well, we'll go to this one and we really want tickets and we'll get them come what may. So they'll pay like 5 times face value. I don't know what the cheapest ticket was. I think it was about 60 quid. And it is disgusting, really, because I'm sure the people involved in selling the tickets know that this is happening, and they'll talk a wonderful game about how they're going to reach it out, but they're not, because it's money and they don't care. And also, like, what was the purse bid for this? 40-something million?
Yeah.
Ish? Like,
you got to recoup that money somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So these tickets, do you remember when he was going to fight Klitschko for the rematch at the MEN? And the ticket prices came out.
At all.
No, well, not surprisingly, because I think the cheapest ticket was about 200 quid.
Yeah.
It's like, well, nobody's going to pay for that. Like, I'm surprised Cam Brook sold out. Like, when I tried to get tickets for Cam Brook and I couldn't. And the cheapest ticket, and I had a pre-access code, and still the cheapest ticket that I could find was £320.
Yeah.
And I was like, who on earth is paying for this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it's
who
like
on earth?
Experience day at that point, isn't it? Rather than
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you said it, that's 2 flying lessons for me. I can't afford that. It's insane. Like, again, something has to be done. Yada, yada, yada. It's not going to be, because effectively they make money and they don't care. So
everybody is benefiting from the system that is involved in that system. All of that ecosystem, from the center all the way out, are benefiting from it. And
the only people who aren't benefiting are the fighters, really, because they're the ones. I know some of them get paid billions, but the vast majority do not.
Even I would perhaps make an argument some of them do.
But some of them do, yeah. But I would say the vast majority of fighters don't benefit from the system, because, like Jack Catterall, like we said, right? I know he got paid a lot of money to fight Taylor and all the rest of it, and he'll probably get some decent fights out of this. But on the flip side of that, if he was a unified world champion, what are you talking then? That's a different game. Like, that's different money.
Yeah. No. I mean from a StubHub perspective, there will be certain fighters that are involved in it.
I couldn't possibly comment. I have no knowledge of that such things going on. There are rumours, I'm sure, as to that kind of thing. Look, boxing is a broken system. We know that, and has been for a very long time. Probably will be for the rest of my life.
And yet we'll all tune in for Woodcombe.
Yeah, because we're idiots. We're idiots. Like, that's it. Like, we're idiots. We shouldn't be doing this. Why are we even doing it? Because, like, it's weird, isn't it? It's one of the. Is it Stockholm syndrome or something?
Yes, it's an abusive relationship. We'll come back for it.
Well, do you know what? It was something that somebody typed on. I think it was Bad Left Hook. Taylor, Catterall, Stubhub, and all the things we've talked about. The worst part of professional boxing. Boxing as a sport. It's everything that makes you think, I can't be arsed with this anymore. Balls to this.
Yeah.
But then you watch Roman Gonzalez perform the way he did, and it's just joyous, man. Like, you just combinations, the flow, it's wonderful. It's everything you wish you could do. And you're watching him do it.
Brings you back in.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, and we'll wait now for another 6 months or a year for somebody else to come along or Gonzalez to go and fight Estrada or whatever. It's sort of like you wade through the shit for those moments of like, well, you remember why you love it. Like, and to say, Josh Taylor when he fought, what's his name?
Prograis.
What a fight, man! That was brilliant. It was a brilliant fight.
Amazing.
I bet the atmosphere was amazing. It was a phenomenal fight. 2 great fighters, which is what you want to see, and they put everything into it. And that was, you fell in love with boxing all over again.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I think Wood Conlon this weekend will be a good night, a special night. I think it will be an enjoyable night. So.
It could be like, it could be for Conlan. I know Wood's not like a massive superstar or whatever, but it's a potential coming out party for Conlan. If he can put a really impressive performance in and really dominate, win a title and announce himself to the world, it's a big thing for him to do that. Like you said, big star as he is, and you need, when you're a big star, you need that crossover moment. Joshua had his against Klitschko at Wembley. Floyd had. I would say Floyd's crossover was when he beat De La Hoya and when he beat Hatton. You need those big moments to cross you over. That's what this could be for Conlan if he can really put in a star-making performance on Saturday night.
Yeah, but also conversely for Wood, it could almost be his. If he beats Conlan, but that's what makes it special and makes it brilliant. So
it's what will draw us back forever, which is tragic.
I know. Glutton for punishment. Right, let's leave it there, Sam. Thank you so much, man.
Problem.